Okay, let's just wait until everyone has arrived. If this is how you start your meetings, please stop, because you've seen what happens. People get on their phone, they start doing other work, they leave and grab coffee. I mean, in this one sentence, you are penalizing the people who show up on time because you're not actually starting, and now they have wasted time. They've maybe rushed to get there and you're not actually doing anything, so you don't value their time. You're also setting the wrong expectations, that you'd never really start on time, that you don't hold your commitments. So the next time you want to start at, let's say, 8 a.m. sharp, people will show up at 8:05, 8:10. It will just get worse after that. And the absolutely worst thing about saying, let's just wait until everybody's here, is that you're inviting your participants to disengage and like to grab their phone, to reply to emails, to do other work that is going to just kill your engagement for the rest of the session. In this video, I'll share with you the secret that will increase your engagement in your meeting by 874%. And if you stick around to the end, I'll share with you a really cool virtual engagement tool that I've just discovered that you can use for free in your meetings and workshops. Hey, I'm Jan, and I help people create more engaging, inclusive, and meaningful experiences. And what I'm going to share with you today is actually part of my virtual facilitator training. It's the very first part of this virtual experience flow that I usually share and talk about in my training. And it's called the unofficial start activity. Rather than the official start activity, which you can only do once everyone is here, the unofficial start is kind of happening right at the moment when the first person enters your Zoom meeting or enters the room of your session until the last person is here, and you can have your official welcome, your official start. And if you do this in person, this could sometimes mean coming up with an activity for about 10 to 15 minutes, because there's always somebody that shows up a few minutes early. Usually me, I'm the one who's showing up early. If you're doing a session on Zoom or Microsoft Teams or any other virtual platform, I would say you could get away with just organizing something for about 3 to 5 minutes. And the purpose of this really is to help make sure everybody feels welcome. Even if they're showing up a few minutes early, or if they're showing up on time, we can't really get started until a few minutes later. So why not make sure that people engage, that they feel welcome? I mean, it would be awkward if you're just standing around twisting your thumbs and not really engaging or having conversations with them, right? So what does that look like for an in-person event? I love to put out name tags, especially if it's for participants that don't know each other yet. And rather than just having them write down their name, I like to add something that they can use to customize their name tags and make it easier to talk to the first person. Sometimes that means grabbing a bunch of kids' stickers from the dollar store and having every person choose one sticker that represents something about them. And that's a great conversation starter once you get to know each other. Of course, that won't work if you're in a more corporate environment. For that, I actually created these custom name tags that have different conversation starters on them. For example, ask me about my recent win, or ask me about a big goal for this year, or ask me about something new that I'm learning. And by giving people a couple of different options on which name tag they can choose, they're basically choosing those first questions to engage with somebody else with. And that just makes it much easier, because now we don't get stuck in small talk. People connect with each other right away. If you are meeting virtually, you can simply invite your participants to answer one of these questions in the chat. One important thing to remember, though, is that I would not let individuals unmute and share their answer if not everybody's there yet, because it can be really awkward if you're coming in as the second person just in the middle of the conversation and you don't know what they talk about, and it's hard to interrupt and you just start disengaging again. So unless you have a very small group of people that know each other really well and maybe meet every week, I would probably recommend that everybody starts by answering in the chat and that way it's visible for everyone and nobody feels left out right as the first thing in the meeting. And if you'd like to make it even more engaging, I want to introduce you to a pretty cool tool that I've been playing around with and having lots of fun with in the last week. I was originally recommended this by another virtual facilitation trainer, and it's called Stream Alive. First, I'm going to invite Stream Alive to my Zoom meeting, and this is kind of the thing that I love the most. This will make sure that no participant needs to install an app, click a link, leave Zoom at all, because it can then pull all of the information out of the Zoom chat. So let me show you how I do it. All right, as we can see, Stream Alive has entered the waiting room, and I'm going to admit them into my meeting. Now that they are a participant in here, they are able to read whatever is posted into the chat, and this is so much fun. I'll show you exactly how it works. So let me add the chat over down here, and as you can see already, I've asked a question. Where are you tuning in from? Share your location in the chat below. Something that we often do just so our virtual participants can get a better sense of space and how we're distributed, sometimes over a country, over the world. And once we start typing in our locations, and they can be countries, they can be cities, they can be abbreviations, they could be regions. Here is what shows up in Stream Alive that I then can share back to my participants. So as you can see, whenever a participant types in their location, it just gets added on the map, and it's actually really cool if you think about being able to hover over the different spots, being able to zoom in and see exactly where somebody's located. It looks like if you add the country, it will take the capital as like the dot. But if you add a more specific place, like where I'm based right now, it will make sure to add that directly on that map here. And again, we can zoom out, we can see where everyone is located. And this is all by people just typing their locations into the chat. And this is why I think this is such a great inclusive engagement tool. The learning curve is so small because everybody knows how to use the chat. You can use this in Zoom. You can also use it in Microsoft Teams, or if you're streaming on YouTube. Nobody needs to click to install an app, go to a website, use a secondary device. It's just a very simple way for your participants to engage, but for you to display the information in a more interesting way. So I'll share with you two more unofficial start activities that we can use with this tool, Stream Alive. This is just one tool, of course, that we can use. And I would say if you really want to show the strength of this tool, it works best if you have larger groups. I would say if you have 50, 100 participants, this tool will really help you kind of take that data and do something interesting with it, again, without people having to leave the Zoom app. For the second unofficial start activity, we're going to do a word cloud. So let's see what happens if everybody shares one word association per chat message in Zoom. Okay, so you can see any word that gets submitted more than once will show up a little bit larger. And it's a really cool tool, especially if you have larger groups, to get a quick read on the room in terms of what's their knowledge about a topic, what's their feeling about a topic. Some other questions I sometimes like to ask is, what are some of the feelings that are present in your body today? And it just gives you a quick read of the room. Now, the funny thing that happened is it auto-corrected Brené Brown to Brent Brown, which I don't know if that's an actual person. I have to look that up. But here's the cool thing I can do with Stream Alive. If I click here, I can go in and delete and moderate certain words. So if I want to take Brent Brown out of there, I can just click that little garbage icon and it will just be removed. And if you wanted to go deeper with the word cloud, I love to sometimes just pick one of the words, maybe one of the larger ones like strength in this case, ask who wrote it, and then invite them to elaborate and share a bit more. Of course, this is something you would only do once everyone is present, because you don't want the discussion itself that could actually be on the theme of your session, of your meeting, to be something that people will completely miss. It might be actually important for whatever you're going to do afterwards. And this last activity is inspired by this post on Instagram that I found by Strange Planet, where you invite your participants to imagine that they're only a 1/4 inch tall. What is a 1/4 inch? Like this? And you have to choose 3 foods, 1 to explore, 1 to consume, and 1 to take a nap on. I actually set up the poll in 3 parts, so we're going to start by asking our participants which of these foods they would like to explore if they were just like this tiny. And then in Stream Alive, I set up a poll that looks like this. And the fun thing here is either participants can share the number of their food by just typing that into the chat, or they could just actually write the name. So if I write grapes, although grapes is selected currently, if I write honey, it would jump to that, right? And you can see on the side, it's tallying up people's votes. So let's add some pancakes to the mix. Which one would I like to explore? It's definitely number 7, the broccoli is kind of my go-to. If I was just a 1/4 inch tall, I would definitely want to explore the broccoli. It feels like a little forest. And then, of course, we continue and we ask participants, what would you like to consume? What would you like to take a nap on? And this data in Stream Alive will just update with each question. It's very versatile. I still have a few things that I wish were better, just demonstrating the results in a more interesting way. I could see that even just sharing the slide, there's a lot of empty space on the right. I would love for it to just visually look a little bit more pleasing and simpler, but it's a great start for anyone who's leading groups that wants to engage people right away, but not necessarily send people away right away. Like the other challenge that I see sometimes is you want to use a really cool virtual engagement tool. People have just arrived in Zoom. Maybe they're a bit more tech challenged. And the first thing that you ask them to do is click a link, and then they open some kind of website. Zoom suddenly disappears. They're on the website. They don't see you anymore. They don't see each other anymore. And then after they've submitted their information on that website, I've had issues with people not finding their way back to Zoom easily. So this tool might solve that problem. And if you're still struggling with engaging your participants in your virtual sessions on Microsoft Teams, on Zoom, on Butter, on any other virtual meetings platform, watch this video where I'll share how to turn your quiet observers into highly engaged participants. And if you haven't subscribed and you want more of these tips, make sure you click that button down here.